Welcome back to DN. Today I want to talk about why young people do not trust the system any longer. And we've spoken about it before on this channel, but the primary reason is due to housing. So young people just don't have as much of a stake in the system as generations gone by. As we know, we live under the system of capitalism, and what's happening is younger people do not have a literal stake in capital or in capitalism. The main way that people used to achieve this for the working classes and middle classes was through home ownership. So we're seeing home ownership decline massively and becoming harder and harder and harder for young people. And this means that they no longer really have a stake, particularly in the system. They're not too bothered about the system because the system is not providing for them in terms of one of the fundamentals for human life, in terms of shelter. And people are not able to have something that they feel is their own. So they're buying out of the system. The system's not working for them. So young people don't want to work particularly for the system. Carrying on from that is the second main issue for young people, or the second big issue for young people, which is the issue of debt. So we have consumer debt from just standard loans, credit cards, payday loans, etc. And we also have the big issue of student debt as well. Again, we're seeing a generational divide, particularly in terms of student debt. So pre-Labour, Blair, I believe, young people had free university. So there was no student debt for previous generations. So that was introduced by Labour and gradually increased throughout the years up to the rate just over £9,000 per year at the moment. But this is a fee that did not used to apply to previous generations. So it just entrenches the intergenerational divide in terms of wealth, something which is already heavily skewed to favour older generations. And not only the intergenerational unfairness of the current graduate tax system, but it also acts as a tax on the working poorer. So the more aspirational amongst the working classes, lower middle classes, and to be honest, a lot of the general middle class as well, in the UK, this is what I'm talking about, will have to apply for student loans. Now, if you pay this off straight up, then obviously there's no interest, there's no fee beyond the initial fee. So again, it's a straight disadvantage to people that cannot pay the upfront £9,000 plus pounds per year. And what the current system basically ends up being in the UK is a graduate tax, a marginal graduate tax on anything over the threshold of an additional 9% per year. So young people are hit with the housing problem. It's increasingly hard to get a house, just to buy a house, to start a family, to have somewhere to live. Debt is increasing, consumer debt, credit card debt, things like Klarna loans just for a takeaway, because people are struggling to keep up with the cost of living. Debt is very high, student debt is high, home ownership is down. Most people are not able to save for a deposit. People that do own homes are relying heavily on family wealth, on generational wealth, inherited wealth. And as such, younger people are buying out of the system. They're not believing in the system. The next point I wanted to talk about is work and job insecurity. So jobs are just not what they used to be. In terms of previous generations, you would maybe go to school, leave at 15, 16, have a few qualifications, you'd go around, hand out a few of these, a few CVs, and that was it. You get a job, work your way up, make the coffees, gradually work your way up, and you were sorted, you were sweet. That's not the case anymore. We're seeing more and more people actually go to university, young people put themselves in these high levels of debt, but then they come out of university having listened to their elders who told them to do this, told them to work hard, study hard, you'll get a good job, you'll get a degree, you'll get a good job, security, you can have a house, you can have a family. These things are being torn from under the feet of the youth. And job insecurity is rising in the context of home ownership decreasing and debt levels increasing. So when we look at it all together, it's just not a great place to be in. And fundamentally, people are feeling that the system is not working. We had 14 years in the UK of Tory government, of Conservative government. They didn't even conserve anything. They made things worse. They did not. What did they conserve? Everything got worse under them. So they should change their name, quite frankly. But they're basically done now. They've had a rebrand. Their ideology have had a rebrand, namely Reform UK. And then the hope on the left at the moment is the Green Party. But traditional politics in the UK is failing. And fundamentally, that is because the system is failing. And in particular, the system is failing young people.